Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the second part of the meeting of the Eastern Area Planning Committee. For the benefit of the public that weren't here this morning, this is one of 3 area-based planning committees of Dorset Council. Our area of remit covers the previous Purbeck District Council and East Dorset District, most of the East Dorset District Council areas. For the benefit of the public, also, I'm Councillor Tony Coombs, Chairman of this Area Planning Committee. If I can introduce the officers that are supporting us this afternoon, we have Kim Cowell, Principal Planning Officer, Liz Adams, Planning Case Officer, Naomi Shinkins, Planning Case Officer, Peter Waters, Planning Case Officer, Steve Savage from Dorset Highways, Chelsea Gollidge, who will be reading out the public representations, Phil Crowther, who's our legal support, and David Northover, our committee support officer. I would also like to thank the officers behind the scenes who are making today's virtual meeting possible. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Council has had to put in place measures to enable the Council's decision-making processes to continue whilst keeping safe members of the public, councillors and Council staff in accordance with the Government's guidance on social distancing, by applying new regulations for holding committee meetings from remote locations. This meeting is being live streamed to the public, and a copy of the recording of the meeting will be available on the website after the meeting. Public participation will take the form of written statements as opposed to public speaking. We'll be following the agenda, or the remainder of the agenda, as set out in your pack from agenda item 7. I need to do a roll call for attendance, as we did this morning. So first of all, David Northover, do we have any apologies for absence, please?
Apologies for absence for the afternoon session, Chairman, from Councillors Worth and Troit. We are hoping to have Councillor Robinson join us this afternoon.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'll now go through the roll call just to make sure that everybody is here. Shane Bartlett.
Present, Madam Chairman.
Alex Brenton.
Present, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Robin Cook.
Present, Madam Chairman.
Mike Dyer.
Present, Madam Chairman.
Barry Gorringe.
Present, Madam Chairman.
Brian Heatley.
Present, Chairman.
David Morgan.
Present, Chairman.
Julie Robinson. Not yet. David Took.
Present, Chairman.
Thank you. And both Bill Trott and John Worth have given their apologies. Okay. Moving on, do we have any declarations of pecuniary or other conflict of interest, bias or determination on the application before us this afternoon? Okay. So, moving on swiftly then, the item we are discussing this afternoon is agenda item 7, 3191767, demolish existing dwellings and erect a food store, Lidl, with associated access, parking and landscaping at 76 to 78 Ringwood Road, Verwood, and that's pages 73 to 120 in your agendas. So, Naomi, I believe you're taking us through this presentation.
Yes, I will. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just share my screen. Can everyone see my screen? Can you confirm?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, members. Again, yes, this is application 3191767 full to demolish existing dwellings and erect a food store with associated access, parking and landscaping at 76 to 78 Ringwood Road in Verwood. This application has been referred to committee given the public interest in the application and the potential impacts to the surrounding area. By way of update, there are a few typos in the officer's report which I need to clarify. Where the sales area is referred to in the officer's report as 1,172 square metres, this should be 1,170 square metres, and this will be updated in the conditions where it's mentioned. The officer's report refers to both 12 and 14 cycle parking spaces being provided. To clarify, there will be 12 cycle parking spaces provided with 6 Sheffield stands located on site. The officer's report refers to 49 letters of objection. There are actually 64 letters of objection, and also 3 were received with no addresses. And then finally to note, it's not noted in the officer's report that a statement of community involvement was submitted with the application. I should note this includes 3,648 consultation responses, where there was a large majority in favour of the application. Just to advise members, the presentation is about 35 slides, so it is quite a long presentation, but slides are numbered at the top where there's information on those slides, and should members wish to refer to specific slides in the questions after the presentation. So in terms of the site and the location and context, this slide shows the location within the wider committee area for the benefit of all members. The application site is 0.64 hectares and is, sorry, I'll just get my pointer, and is located here as pinpointed. It's mainly hard standing, and it's currently in use as a caravan storage area, which can accommodate over 125 caravans. So it's located to the south side of Ringwood Road, and it's to the east of Verwood Town Centre. The application site also includes 2 residential properties, which are numbers 76 and 78 Ringwood Road, which are the 2 dwellings here. The site is located between Ringwood Road and Crescent Road. Its western, eastern and part of its southern boundaries run alongside residential properties, which are themselves variously located at Ringwood Road, Heathlands Close, Crescent Road, Chard Close and Newton Road. Vehicular access is from Ringwood Road. These images show the views on Ringwood Road looking both northwest and southeast. And in terms of the character of the area, to Ringwood Road, it is mixed with both residential development and commercial development, including a petrol station and car dealership directly opposite the site, and often with some residential dwellings in close proximity to neighbouring non-residential uses. The area comprises both single and 2-storey structures, and there is a 3-storey mixed-use development located at the junction of Ringwood Road and Black Hill to the southeast of the application site. These images show the character of the area of the residential roads surrounding the site as well. These include Crescent Road, Heathland Close and Chard Close. So the character of the area to Crescent Road is residential and comprises mostly single-storey dwellings with well-vegetated boundaries close to the application site. However, there are also 2-storey dwellings in the wider area. Chard Close is an unmade road which provides access to the rear properties fronting Crescent Road and front access to properties backing onto Ringwood Road. Dwellings here are single-storey. The character of the area to Heathlands Road is also residential and comprises single-storey red brick dwellings with open frontages. So the application site itself. The site is largely flat and contains no features apart from a number of mature trees which are located on the peripheries of the site and within adjacent properties. The trees to the south, which can be seen in the photograph, are subjects of a tree preservation order. So there are no other structures on the site other than the aforementioned dwellings at numbers 76 and 78 Ringwood Road, which can be seen here. So the site is located within the main urban area of Verwood. It's within 400 metres of the protected heathland, Verwood Heath. Verwood Town Centre is located approximately 650 metres to the west along Ringwood Road, and highways constraints include Ringwood Road. In terms of the site history, a planning application was submitted back in 2013 for the erection of a 64-bedroom care home with associated access, parking and landscaping. This was refused in November 2013 due to the scale, style and bulk, which impacted negatively on the character of the area, neighbouring amenity, and impacted negatively on trees. So this proposed development. This planning application proposes the demolition of the existing 2 dwellings and the construction of a supermarket and associated parking, manoeuvring and loading areas, plant, boundary treatments, lighting and landscaping. Initial plan was submitted and changes were made due to the officer and third-party concerns raised. So you can see the differences in the table on the slide. So it is noted that the proposed design has not reduced the floor area significantly. However, the following changes have been made to improve the relationship of the proposed with the surrounding context. So the main building has been repositioned to avoid the impact on the protected oak tree, which is located to the southeast. The protected oak tree is now retained. The separation distances to neighbouring boundaries have been improved, particularly to the south and west. The car parking area has been reduced as a result of the repositioning of the building. Materials have been changed to include brick, timber, cladding and render. Materials have been changed to include brick and timber cladding, and the render has been removed. And the overall height has been reduced by approximately 1 metre with a change to the floor levels, which I will detail later in my presentation. So the proposed retail building would be a detached structure occupying the southern half of the site, and the parking area would be located at the northern end adjacent to Ringwood Road. Access is proposed from Ringwood Road through the existing site entrance, which would be modified to make it suitable to serve the proposal. The building would have a gross internal area of 1,668 square metres, again, of which 1,170 square metres would be given over to sales space, which is the main area here within the proposed building. The remaining internal area would be given over to storage, staff facilities, chiller and freezer areas, with the freezer areas being here, chiller areas here, warehouse here, and staff facilities located here. There is an external plant area located alongside the building's eastern elevation, which is adjacent to 19 Crescent Road, located here. There's a covered trolley area, which will be located to the northern end of the eastern elevation, again adjacent to 19 Crescent Road. A loading bay and associated access ramp will be located to the northern end of the western elevation, adjacent to 3 Heathlands Close. And the parking area would include 79 parking spaces, which includes 6 disabled spaces, 6 parent-child spaces. And 6 parent-child spaces. The cycle parking is located here, again, 6 Sheffield stands, providing spaces for 12 bicycles. Externally, the building would have a flat monopitched roof rising to a maximum height of around 6.8 metres above the finished floor level towards the eastern side of the building. Due to the reduced floor levels, this would actually be 5.8 metres above ground level when considering that reduced floor level. The lower length of the flat roof would run from the north to the southern ends of the buildings and is 5 metres in height above the ground floor level, above the finished floor levels, but 4 metres in height above the ground floor level. Proposed cladding materials would comprise glazing, including full height curtain wall glazing, red brick, timber cladding and silver metal cladding. To make members aware, there is a change to the use class order. While what's been applied for is A1 shops is now changed to Class E, which is commercial, business and service, and that was amended on the 1st of September 2020 under the use class order. However, there is a material transition period until the 31st of July 2020, where the former use class is still referred to. In terms of local representations for this application, again, in total 64 letters of objection were received and further 3 with no address, which includes objections from adjoining neighbours and another local supermarket. They raised concerns in relation to the proposed location, the principle of development, proposed design, particularly the impact on the character of the area, impact on neighbouring amenity, impact on traffic and highway safety, insufficient parking provided, drainage and flooding concerns, impact on trees and ecology, impact on listed buildings, construction concerns, impact on the town centre retail, and there's also concerns raised the information submitted in the retail impact assessment is not robust. Letters of support and no objection were also received, which includes one letter from an adjoining neighbour that raises no objection. The majority of support letters were in response to a support campaign carried out by the applicants in May 2020. As a result of this campaign, 427 letters of support were received. From this, 332 letters of support were received from 310 addresses, and 95 letters were received that gave no address. The comments of support were general comments of support for the proposal. It was considered to be a good location that was easily accessible. The existing supermarkets in Verwood were not considered sufficient for the local population, and this would provide an essential amenity in Verwood. There are no other suitable sites which have been offered up. The proposal is less invasive and more suitable than the previous nursing home proposal. There has been reference to more harmful traffic impacts outside other food stores in Dorset, and also additional business of this nature would provide a boost to the local employment. Finally, in terms of local representations, to note, Verwood Town Council objected to the initial submitted scheme, but now raised no objection to the revised design currently proposed. In terms of the officer's assessment, starting with the principle of development. The application site again is located approximately 650 metres to the east of the town centre boundary. Given the location is considered to be an out of centre site, however, it is well connected to the town centre via Ringwood Road. The policy background in relation to out of town centre sites is set out in section 8 of the officer's report, and that's paragraphs 803 to 826. And this highlights that a sequential test and retail impact assessment is required for this application, given its location and the proposed floor area. In terms of the sequential test, in this instance, the applicant has provided a planning retail statement which sets out a sequential test for the site. It stated that only 2 potential sites within the town centre could be possible locations. However, these have been dismissed by the applicants as they are considered either not to be suitable to accommodate the proposed development nor available in one of the instances. Other edge of centre sites were also considered but were dismissed for similar reasons. The council has sought independent advice from a retail consultancy regarding the proposed development and the submitted retail assessment. The submitted documents concluded that there are no suitable or available town centre sites or alternative edge of centre sites. Therefore, the sequential test is passed. The council's retail consultants, through their own research of available sites in the area, concur with this conclusion. They also confirm that they are not aware of other out-of-centre sites that could be considered sequentially preferable to the application site, and officers concur with these findings. This being the case, as the site is considered to be an out-of-centre site, on balance, it is the officer's opinion that the site is acceptable for retail development as the proposed satisfies the sequential test in line with local and national policy. In terms of the impact on the town centre, third-party concerns have been raised that there would be a significantly adverse impact on the town centre of Verwood, which would justify the refusal of the planning application. Concerns have also been raised that the submitted information as part of the planning retail statement is not robust. The proposed development would significantly increase the retail offer in Verwood, and the applicant's business model is to provide limited food lines with some ad hoc sales of other goods. As a result, the store would compete with a limited number of other stores in the area. As noted previously, we have sought independent advice from a retail consultant who have also analysed the impact on the vitality and viability of Verwood Town Centre. The analysis submitted shows that Verwood is a viable town centre with no long-term vacancies. The council's consultants contends that the impact on the overall vitality and viability will be minimal, particularly due to the limited convenience goods composition of the town centre. In this case, it was considered the majority of the trade diversion would fall on out-of-centre stores, which are more comparable to the proposal and which will therefore experience the highest level of trade impact. Further to this, only 5% of the town centre comprises of convenience goods retailing. The majority of town centre uses comprise of service facilities, which is 51%, and the remaining 44% comprise comparison goods retailing. Therefore, a significant part of the town centre is unlikely to be affected by the proposed development on a like-for-like basis. The council consultants also conclude that the information submitted is robust and that the impact will not represent an adverse impact on the town centre's overall vitality and viability. Officers concur with this, and a condition has been imposed to ensure that should the applicant's business model alter in the future, it would not be in a position to sell goods that would have a harmful impact on the viability of other stores within the town centre, which is condition 3 of the officer report. In terms of the impact on the character of the area, again, the character of the area to Ringwood Road, as we can see in these images, is mixed with both residential and commercial, including, again, the petrol station opposite. The character of the area to the other surrounding roads is generally residential, as mentioned previously. A number of third-party concerns have been received throughout the application process, where it is considered the proposed would impact negatively on the character of the area. While the footprint would be noticeably larger than the adjacent residential dwellings, the main view of the proposed will be from Ringwood Road, and the proposed is set back some 45 metres from the road frontage. Notwithstanding this, the existing garage opposite has a footprint of approximately 25 by 45 metres, which is more in keeping with the proposed. In terms of the how the building will look, the proposed store utilises a standardised design for discount retailers. Externally, the building would have a flat and monopitch roof rising to a maximum height of 6.8 metres above the finished floor level, and the lower length of flat roof would be 5 metres above the finished floor level. The proposed is single storey, and it is, as previously mentioned, the levels have been reduced by 1 metre. Therefore, the height would appear to be 4 to 5.8 metres above ground floor level, and adjacent dwellings are 5 to 5.5 metres in height. Whilst the scale of the building is larger than the surrounding areas, the height is of a domestic scale comparable to existing residential developments surrounding the application site. Finished floor levels have been conditioned to ensure the appropriate height is secured, which is condition 24 of the officer's report. In terms of the materials for the store, again, it will be glazing, brick and timber and metal cladding at higher levels. Given the mixed character of the area, the proposed materials are considered to be generally acceptable, subject to condition for samples to be provided and agreed. I should also note, this view is from Ringwood Road. However, it is also acknowledged that the proposed will be visible from Crescent Road as well. However, the main building will be 9 metres from the public highway, and again will be at a height of 4 to 5.8 metres high with the reduced floor levels. It will also be somewhat screened by protected trees and existing substantial hedging that will be retained, which is approximately 2.5 metres high. And as well, there is proposed boundary fencing of 2.1 metres high. The proposed plan to the southeast corner will be enclosed by 2.5 metre high acoustic fencing, and it will not be very visible, again, with the boundary screening that's existing to be retained and proposed fencing. In terms of the landscaping, the proposed is currently in use as a caravan storage site with an open frontage. Therefore, the current outlook from Ringwood Road is of parked caravans. The car park will cover the majority of the site to the north, and the majority of the existing site is also hard surfaced. Again, existing protected trees and hedging will be retained. As such, the character of the area is not considered to be harmfully impacted, and landscape additions to the car park area, which I'll detail later, is likely to be an improvement to the current application site. So in terms of trees, landscaping and boundary treatments. Initial designs proposed were to remove the existing protected oak tree to the southeast. However, an objection was raised from third-party concerns were raised, and an objection was raised by the Dorset County Tree Officer. This is now this tree is now retained, as are the other protected trees, and the building has been amended to accommodate the root protection area, which we can see here with the angle cut into the building. The tree officer is now satisfied that his previous concerns have been overcome and has no objections subject to condition. So in terms of the landscape proposal, this includes the retention of 7 of the 14 existing trees, including the protected oak tree. An additional 9 trees have been added. The retention of existing hedging to the boundaries, additional native hedging to be added, and some soft landscaping added to the edges. In terms of some of the additional trees to be added, there will be 3 semi-mature trees added to the car park area to the front here. It's also noted that third-party concerns were raised regarding non-native plant species proposed. However, the tree officer has considered the species and confirms they are acceptable. In terms of boundary treatment, the plan here shows again the existing hedging to be retained, but also shows the site being surrounded by acoustic timber fencing, except for the frontage to Ringwood Road, which would be open. The proposed boundary treatments are considered to be generally acceptable. In terms of impact on neighbouring amenity, these images show some of the views of the adjacent residential properties where you will be able to see the application site behind. Third-party concerns have been raised that the proposed would impact negatively on neighbouring amenity in terms of noise disturbance from the intensified use, plant, traffic movements and hours of operation. Concerns are also raised regarding loss of light, loss of privacy, air pollution and light pollution. So the current use of the application site is for caravan storage, which has been in place since 1971. It is acknowledged that the change of use of the site will lead to an intensification of the use of the land compared to the current use. Particular areas of concern are the external plant area, which will be located along the building's eastern elevation, which is adjacent to 19 Crescent Road, and would be 1.5 metres from the boundary. The covered trolley area located at the northern end of the eastern elevation, again adjacent to 19 Crescent Road, and 2.5 metres from the boundary. Also of concern is the loading bay and associated access ramp, which would be located at the northern end of the western elevation, adjacent to 3 Heathlands Close, and also the parking areas which are located adjacent to 72 Ringwood Road, 1 Char Close, 21 Crescent Road, and located at 1.5 to 2.7 metres from these neighbouring boundaries. In terms of noise disturbance, so noise impact assessments have been submitted in support of the application, and the Dorset Council Environmental Health Officer has been consulted. So as we can see on the plan, areas of concern previously noted are surrounded by acoustic fencing to mitigate noise impact, including additional fencing to the delivery area, which is located here. The Environmental Health Officer has noted the applicant has demonstrated through assessment and modelling that noise associated with the development, including deliveries, during the day would fall below the low observed adverse effect level. This is with the mitigation measures proposed, such as the acoustic fencing. It is noted that noise levels would have an adverse effect at night. Therefore, hours of operation and deliveries are restricted as proposed by the applicant and has been conditioned as such. So deliveries must not start before 7 AM and must terminate by 10 PM. This is condition 5 of the officer's report. The Environmental Health Officer has raised no objections subject to these conditions. So other noise conditions have been imposed, and these are conditions 6 to 8 of the officer's report. And these include that the predicted noise levels must not exceed those in the submitted noise assessment, which includes deliveries, and that the delivery management plan is implemented for the lifetime of the development, including the acoustic fencing. Standard hours of operation are imposed on the standard hours of operation imposed on retail units in the Dorset Council area are 8 AM to 10 PM Monday to Saturday and 10 AM to 5 PM on Sundays and bank holidays. This is subject to trading laws. The Sunday hours of operation are subject to trading laws. and the environmental health officer is satisfied with these proposed hours of operation, which is condition 4 of the officer's report. In terms of loss of light, a daylight assessment has been submitted in support of the application. This provided an overshadowing assessment for the initial design, which is higher and in closer proximity to some of the neighbouring boundaries than what is now proposed. In terms of the initial design submitted, it concluded that the overshadowing analysis for the surrounding gardens, as identified in the images on the slide, has shown that more than half of the individual gardens will continue to be adequately sunlit on the 21st of March, which satisfies the required BRE guidelines. Also, in terms of the height of the building, again, the finished floor level would be 1 metre below ground level. In the section, we can see in blue is the care home that was previously refused. In red is the application which was initially submitted for the supermarket, and in green is what is now currently proposed. The highest point of the roof is situated to the east and is approximately 5.5 metres high above ground floor level. So that is this point here. Approximately 5.8 metres high above ground floor level. And at its highest point, it would be 11.5 metres from the neighbouring boundary. Officers are therefore satisfied that the scale of the building would not have an overbearing impact on the nearest residential properties. In terms of privacy to adjacent properties, only 2 very modest high-level windows are proposed to the western elevation to serve staff areas while they directly face the boundary of 3 Heathlands Close. They are some 18 metres away and screened by a 2.1 metre high fencing. So these windows would be located here, and this is 3 Heathland Close here. Also, the proposed 2.1 metre high fencing around the site and existing hedging provides sufficient screening for all boundaries. In terms of light pollution, the proposed development will require relatively significant levels of external lighting, and a lighting assessment has been submitted in support of the application. Again, the environmental health officer has been consulted and raised no objection to the proposed, but does note the lights bill will need to be in accordance with the submitted assessment, and a condition has been imposed as such, and that lights should be switched off overnight when there are no customers in the store. Just to note, members of staff will only leave the store when customers have left once the store is closed. Officers therefore consider that it is a reasonable condition that the external lighting will be switched off an hour after the store has been closed. So the lighting conditions are conditions 9 and 10 of the officer's report. In terms of air pollution, while there may be some impact in relation to air pollution as a result of increased traffic movements, it is noted Ringwood Road is already a busy road with significant amounts of traffic. Car parking is located to the north of the site with access off Ringwood Road, which contains the site traffic movements within the proximity of Ringwood Road. It is therefore not anticipated that air pollution would increase as a result of the proposed to an extent that would warrant refusal. The Environmental Health Officer has also requested a condition to require a construction management plan, which needs to be written and agreed before the development commences. The plan should include the details of how nearby residents will not be caused disturbance or nuisance during construction, and condition 14 of the officer's report has been imposed to achieve that. In terms of the impact on heritage assets, so third-party concerns have been raised that the proposed would impact negatively on surrounding heritage assets. The closest heritage assets are locally listed buildings, which are some 40 to 50 metres from the application site. And given the single-storey nature of the proposed and the existing site screening to be retained, it is not anticipated that it would be noticeably visible within the context of these locally listed buildings, and therefore no harm is anticipated. The Dorset Council Conservation Officer has been consulted and raised no conservation concerns or objection to the initially proposed design or the subsequent revised design. In terms of highways and parking, so again, third-party concerns have been raised that parking provision is insufficient. The submitted transport assessment in support of the application considers the proposed floor area and notes employee numbers will remain consistent with about approximately 40 employees in a combination of both part and full-time positions. With this in mind, the number of store staff on site is predicted to be from 3 to 10 at any one point of the day, depending on the time of the day or week. It is noted that there is an under provision of 10 parking spaces as required by the Dorset Council guidance. However, this is guidance only. The transport assessment provides a detailed assessment on parking provision with a summary of the resulting predicted maximum parking demand, which is shown on the slide here. And it can be seen that 71 spaces is predicted to be the maximum requirement. Again, 79 is to be provided, and 12 cycle parking spaces. So it is noted that the Dorset Council Highways did raise some concerns initially regarding parking provision in the revised design and sought further clarification on this. However, further to this clarification, the Dorset Council Highways confirmed they had no objection to the proposed subject to conditions. This slide shows the movements of a 16.5 metre articulated lorry, which is specified in the delivery management plan submitted in support of the application. And also the delivery management plan notes a typical Lidl store receives 2 to 3 deliveries per day. In terms of drainage, the site falls within a flood zone 1, which is low risk of flooding. However, there is some theoretical risk of surface water flooding and ponding adjacent to the site entrance on Ringwood Road. Third-party concerns have been raised that the proposed will cause a flood risk and impact negatively on neighbouring properties as a result. So it is proposed to discharge surface water runoff to the ground by soakaways, and the foul water will discharge to the existing Wessex water sewer located in Ringwood Road. The Lead Flood Authority have been consulted, and initially they raised a holding objection due to insufficient information. However, the applicant has responded due to recent difficulties with accessing sites and collecting such data. It has not been possible to provide that information, and the Lead Flood Authority have acknowledged that. Therefore, the Lead Flood Authority removed their holding objection subject to conditions requiring this information prior to commencement, and these are conditions 22 and 23 of the officer's report. In terms of biodiversity, so again, the site is within 400 metres of the Verwood Heath SSSI. However, it is for non-residential use only, which is Class A1 shops, and has been conditioned as such. Therefore, there was no trigger for consultation with Natural England, and the proposed use is considered to be acceptable. Given the size of the site, a biodiversity survey has been undertaken and a mitigation plan has been submitted in support of the application. This was updated in September 2020 and includes bird boxes, bat boxes, shrub, tree and woodland and wildflower mix to be planted, and this has been approved by the Dorset Natural Environment team. Other planning considerations. Contaminated land, again, the Environmental Health Officer has been consulted and has raised no objections to the proposed in relation to contaminated land, subject to conditions in relation to that, which are conditions 11 to 13 of the officer's report. In terms of waste, the applicant has confirmed by email that all waste is managed, sorted and stored within the on-site warehouse. It is then collected by a private third-party haulier and taken to the regional distribution centre, where it is responsibly processed in terms of recycling and waste disposal. In terms of the economic benefit, the proposed development would provide a clear economic benefit to Verwood and the surrounding areas. As mentioned before, it would employ approximately 40 employees in a combination of part and full-time positions, and this is considered to be a positive benefit to the area. So in terms of conditions, as I've mentioned throughout my presentation, a number of these have been applied, including standard commencement, approved plans, proposed use, opening hours, delivery hours, conditions to help mitigate against noise issues, lighting issues, contaminated land, construction management, conditions which refer to construction traffic and management and how it is to reduce impact on neighbours. Highways in terms of access parking, visibility displays and the travel plan to be implemented. Drainage conditions in relation to surface water, site and floor levels, biodiversity, tree and landscaping in terms of tree protection, implementation and landscape management, and materials. So by way of summary, in general, the principle of development has been considered acceptable subject to condition. The design, again, acceptable subject to condition. Proposed parking and layout, acceptable subject to condition. Proposed landscaping, acceptable subject to condition. The impact on heritage assets is considered to be acceptable. The impact on trees, considered to be acceptable subject to condition. Also the same for biodiversity. And finally, the impact on neighbouring amenity. While the third-party concerns are acknowledged, however, these, with the revised design and the proposed mitigation measures, there is currently insufficient planning justification that would now warrant refusal subject to conditions imposed. Therefore, the Office's recommendation is for approval. And that is the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Naomi. Just looking at the informative notes on the agenda, one thing you haven't picked up on is the community infrastructure levy. Do you just want to touch on that for a moment?
Yes, I can. So the proposed is still liable. Sorry, I'm just getting up the relevant section of the report. So that is detailed in the officer's report. Sorry, forgive me. Yes, so the application is still liable, and the a sum has been detailed in the officer's report as 166,480. However, this is an approximate calculation, and a detailed calculation will be done, and the applicant will be made aware of the still contribution that is due.
That's lovely. Thank you very much. It certainly was a bit of a marathon. Well done. I'm now going to move on to the public speakers. I understand that we have one public objector and one and the applicant's agent in support. So Chelsea, do you want to take us through those, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. The comment objecting is from Mr. and Mrs. A. Bascom. We object on the following grounds. The proposal will result in the surrounding roads being adversely affected by a general increase in traffic and noise from public going to and from the proposed site. Ringwood Road is already a busy road in, with a garage entrance opposite Hillside School, the Co-op, Tesco's and Ringwood Road Store. Newtown Road, Crescent Road will all most certainly be used as a shortcut when cars cannot pull out and turn right, which already has a parking problem in work hours. This road has to be used in single file. Black Hill also has its parking problems, delivery lorries from Bradford's parked on the brow of the hill, along with cars parked on the opposite side of the road. I am not sure that the surrounding roads have been taken into consideration. Burwood is a commuting town there, therefore if Lidl, the preferred supermarket shopping, can be done on the way home. Reading the report regarding the oak tree in Crescent Road with T1 protection, it appears that a revised plan still puts this tree at risk. It is too close to the root system and will eventually destroy it. The proposed site is not only in the centre of residential, surrounded by bungalows. This is the wrong place to put a supermarket. It would be better placed in the industrial park, where Lidl supermarkets are traditionally found. There is plenty of room there for parking with better access. Looking at the plan, there is a Mogate, means of escape, marked up. Is this referring to the exit on Crescent Road? There are only 6 parking spaces allocated for staff. Where are they going to park? I'm concerned this exit will be used for staff and customer parking. The highway report has concerns that the 73 parking spaces allocated to customers will not be sufficient, and also there is issues with the delivery vehicles accessing and leaving the site. Who would like a car park at the bottom of their garden with associated noise from traffic, vehicle doors, along with the noise from shopping trolleys rattling along, and public use for the duration of the expected long hours of opening, at least 15 hours a day, 7 days a week? The car park lights will be on all evening. Once the trees, hedges and house have been demolished, the traffic noise from Ringwood Road will be excessive and adversely affected by unsightly views across the proposed car park to the existing garage premises on the north side of Ringwood Road. The proposal will result in the surrounding homes adversely affected by the construction of the proposed new store. It would overbear adjacent properties, most of them being bungalows, and fails to comply with core strategy policy HG2. Ground disturbance, vibration from construction and HGVs will damage the structural integrity of surrounding homes. The proposal will result in a change of use of 78 Ringwood Road from residential C3 to commercial/retail, which will have a resultant adverse effect on the amenity of the immediate locality and specifically 21 Crescent Road and other adjoining residential dwellings. The proposed change of use is inconsistent with the adopted local plan and core strategy. The proposal will result in a loss of a dense group of trees to the rear of the site at 78 Ringwood Road and directly behind 21 Crescent Road, associated with the existing residential use. The proposal will result in a severe change and loss of outlook from the rear of 21 Crescent Road and other homes in the immediate locality, which currently look out onto trees and residential properties. The proposal will result in a significant loss in the market value of surrounding homes. The proposal will result in surrounding homes being adversely affected by noise from the plant room on the south-east side of the proposed new store. The next comment is from James Mitchell on behalf of Lidl. Good afternoon, members. Thanks for considering this statement in support of our Verwood proposals. I'm delighted our application is presented to you, recommended for approval after many months of discussion with your officers. The positive recommendation reflects the complete policy compliance of our scheme. I have provided a brochure on the application to members pre-committee, which I hope has proved useful. This sets out the evolution of the application and summarises the key benefits of the scheme. I'd like to take this further opportunity to reiterate those benefits. The proposals before you today represent economic development, providing a multi-million investment in Verwood, creating 40 new jobs and attracting a significant SIL contribution. Are fully policy compliant with the retail policy aspects audited and approved by the Council's external professional advisor. Reduce the needs for residents to travel outside of Verwood for their basic shopping needs, stemming the very significant outflow of expenditure to Ringwood and Ferndown, and so making Verwood a more sustainable retail location. Provide much needed choice and competition to the benefit of the consumer without adversely affecting the vitality and viability of Verwood Town Centre. Represent highly sustainable development, including the provision of solar photovoltaic cells. Offer a net gain in biodiversity on the site. Retain the protected oak tree and provide a significant net gain in high quality landscaping infrastructure, including the planting of 15 new trees. Offer a high quality design which responds sensitively to the environment in terms of materials, palette, level and scale, thus protecting the amenity of neighbouring residents. Last but certainly not least is the need to highlight the public support for the scheme. Lidl conducted their own extensive consultation, writing to over 10,000 households and local businesses, informing them of our proposals and asking for their opinion. There was an unprecedented level of response, with 3,648 people taking the time to give their view. Of these, a very large majority support the proposals, 87%. This is indicative of the dissatisfaction with the current retail choice and the frustration of needing to go outside of Verwood to fulfil their shopping needs. The situation on the Council's consultation is similarly positive, with 82% of respondents supporting the scheme from over 400 direct comments. In these challenging times, there has never been a greater need for high quality, great value local shopping facilities to be provided. Job creating schemes that benefit local economies and communities should be supported. Our scheme is such a scheme and carries a recommendation to approve based on complete policy compliance. I therefore hope that you very much that members will support their officer's recommendation and grant planning permission this afternoon. Thanks again for listening. That's all the comments. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much, Chelsea. We have 3 local ward members, which include myself. However, the one that is speaking for the application is Simon Gibson. Simon, do you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you to the committee for the chance to speak as ward member. A lot of what I've got to say has been covered in the comprehensive report by Naomi, and I'd like to thank her and her officer team for all the work that they have done to get this application to this stage. I think it's fair to say that throughout the prolonged and protracted history of this application, there have been parts and elements that haven't been acceptable to the community, many of which have now been overcome, and I'm grateful for that, because what we've got now, from my perspective, is an application that is appropriate for the site and does go some way to meeting the retail needs of the town. I'm asking for the committee to back the recommendation to support the application today. I think the comments from the representative from Lidl sum up a lot of what I wanted to say, which is what now that we've been able to satisfy the planning requirements, the wider impact on the town does need to be considered. I personally believe that this does benefit the town more widely. I think it gives more chance to shop where you like to shop for our residents, many of whom travel to Lidl stores elsewhere, and we should be trying to stop that wherever we can. We should be shopping in Verwood as much as we can. And I think now is not the time to be rejecting the opportunity to have more jobs in Verwood, to support businesses that want to invest in our town. And as a result, for me, I'm very pleased to see the recommendation, and I hope the committee will support it. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Simon. Naomi and other officers, do you wish to respond to any of the comments made by members of the public or the other local member?
Yes, if I could, just on the objection received, the first representation read out, to clarify a few points. They note that the root protection area of the tree was still at risk. I can confirm amendments have been made, as I mentioned in my presentation, which includes the amendment to the building. I presume everyone can still see my screen. Can you, the slide?
We can.
Yep. The amendments to the building here, and the tree officer is satisfied that the root protection area will be protected, and there won't be any further tree issues as a result of that. They also mentioned a means of escape, which I have queried with the applicant. There is no means of escape to Crescent Road, and the applicant has confirmed that. There is a means of escape from the building located here to the southeast, but then it is a requirement to travel north. So there is no vehicular or pedestrian access to the area around Crescent Road, which the applicant has confirmed. In terms of concerns raised, such as vibration, the applicant has also confirmed that the proposed would have raft foundations and not piles. Obviously, there would still be disturbance from any form of construction. There would be some form of disturbance, but it's not going to be piled foundations, which would cause significant vibrations. And then finally, in terms of the comment that a little store would be more suitable on an industrial site, we need to consider the application before us, which is the store on this site, and consider the merits of this, and the officer's assessment is based on the context and not a proposal on an industrial site. That's it from me.
Okay, thank you. I already have a line of speakers. The first one is Barry Gorringe, please.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, I'd just like to thank Naomi for a very good comprehensive report on this application. Going on to the town council and parish councils, I'm always pleased when the town council supports these applications, and obviously Verwood has done this on this occasion. I'm also happy with the conditions on the delivery times of the lorries, which has been conditioned on 0.5. I still have concerns with regard to this plant room and the effect that it's going to have on the residents in number 19 Crescent Road. So I've got some doubts about that, because generators are noisy, and if I was sitting out in the garden there on a nice summer's day, I wouldn't be too happy with that. Finally, the other issue, which is I know this road, Ringwood Road, very well because I go to the Italian and the Indian restaurant, which is just down the road from this application. What does concern me is we've got traffic coming in and out on this application of Lidl's, and also the garage on the opposite side of the road where people are in and out getting their fuel. What I would like to see, and I don't know whether the highways officer is taking this into consideration, is to have some yellow lines outside this application and also on the opposite side of the road with the garage, which will stop parking, and obviously parking on this road would be a real disaster. And also the other thing that concerns me is pedestrians trying to cross this busy road with the supermarket on one side and the garage on the other side. I can see there'll be accidents. I wondered if we could have some kind of aisle in the middle of the road, so at least it gives pedestrians some safety, if that's the right word, to actually be able to cross the road when coming from the garage side over into the supermarket side. I'll be interested to see what the highways officer has to say about that. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Naomi wants to come in on some of the points you have made. Once she's done that, I think I'll ask our highways man, Steve Savage, to step in and address the other issues that you've raised.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councillor Gorringe. Yes, I will let Steve address the highways issues you've raised, but in terms of the plant area, we have received a noise assessment which specifically deals with the plant area and the noise generated from that. And there was one deals specifically with the delivery. So you'll see in the officer's report there's a separate condition for the noise levels from the plant, which is condition 6. And the environmental health officer has approved or agreed with the noise assessment that's been submitted, which modelled the noise and notes that it would be of the lowest observed adverse effect level. So in terms of that, with the mitigation measures provided, the plant area in planning terms is considered to be acceptable. Steve, do you want to address the highways issues?
If I may, Madam Chairman.
Yes, please.
The application was submitted with a transport assessment in full support of it, which looked at the likely impact of obviously traffic onto the highway network in the vicinity of the site. It also took into account the fact that whilst the store will be generating traffic, a lot of the trips will already be on the network. They will be trips which are transferred to this destination from other stores, for example. They will be pass-by trips and the like. But a full assessment was carried out, and the conclusion reached, which we agree with in the Highway Authority, is that the network can take the additional traffic. In response to Councillor Gorringe's query regarding the petrol filling station point, which is almost opposite the access here, this was considered as part of the transport assessment. A Picardy run, which is a modelling study, was looked at this to ensure that there wouldn't be a conflict. And again, the modelling proved that it was acceptable with an access here, and that the petrol filling station would be able to operate as it currently does. With regards to crossing, well, there's a pedestrian crossing at the junction of Blackhill at the signals, a controlled crossing. With regards to the remainder of this section of the B-class road, there are obviously existing dropped crossing points where people can cross when it's safe to do so. The road itself has insufficient width to provide pedestrian refuges. It would need to flare out to get the statutory width of the refuge within the carriageway. The conclusion which I reached assessing this is that pedestrians can be safely accommodated with the existing facilities, and we couldn't justifiably ask Lidl's to provide anything else as a result of their development. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Steve. One of the other comments was about yellow lines outside to ease the flow of traffic. I wonder if you just touch on that, please.
Well, certainly. Firstly, we don't feel there's a requirement for yellow lines. I mean, people should not be parking and causing obstruction to the highway or to access points. Secondly, if you try and tie traffic regulation orders to planning application, that's obviously a procedure outside of the planning regime, as it were. You would need the support of obviously the police, the parish, or the town council in this instance, and the highway authority. We haven't deemed in this instance that, again, we could justifiably ask for yellow lines to be provided. I don't personally feel that they're necessary here. If it's proven in the future that there is an issue, of course, then the town council can approach the highway authority, and then we would need to look at it accordingly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll be interested to see what other members have to say.
Okay, well, there's a long list of them. The next one is David Took.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, Councillor Gorringe got in with one of my concerns, which is pedestrian crossing the road. And I note Steve's comments about there being a crossing at the where the co-op is, and crossings further up. But there are a number of residential places that are sort of opposite where this site will be. So people will be coming from Strathmore Drive and Sherwood Close, Sherwood Drive, School Close. And there's lots of houses there, and they'll be coming and they'll be wanting to cross really where the entrance to the store is. And I am concerned about safety of pedestrians there. The brochure that Lidl sent round makes a big thing about it is going to be accessible by a number of means, including pedestrians and cyclists. And I'm not sure I'm satisfied that the existing crossings will provide adequate safety for pedestrians. So I concur with Councillor Gorringe's concerns on that score. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Shane Bartlett.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just have a question concerning planning condition 12. My understanding is that the history of this site is well known by the officers, and in terms of any during the development, any contamination of the land and the necessary effects that it could have on the water table and pollution. Am I to understand that because the history of the site is so well known, you're not anticipating to find any contamination of the land that is out of the ordinary?
Sorry, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I was just turning mute off. Councillor Bartlett, there is condition 11 which requires the research to be taken place and the remediation strategy. So the contaminated land conditions are from condition 11, 12 and condition 13, which tries to cover if any issues have been found throughout initial research. And these are the conditions that have been suggested and requested to be imposed by the environmental health officer who was consulted on the contaminated land issues.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I shall move on then. My next speaker is Brian Heatley.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm a little puzzled by the proposed condition 3. It says in the body at the top of it, the development approved shall be used as a discount food retailer only and no other use. And then there's a reference to the use classes order, and that may be the source of why I don't understand it. It then goes on to say the sales area, brackets, convenience and comparison goods shall not exceed a certain size. Now, my understanding is the convenience goods are the sort of things that you get in a discount food retailer, but comparison goods are things like clothes and electrical goods and so on, the sort of thing that we see most Lidl stores selling in their kind of ad hoc offer. Now, which is it here? Is this a shop that is going to sell a lot of comparison goods on a rather pile it high and sell them cheap basis. And if that is the case, I am not sure that the assessment of the effect on the town centre is right, in that the reasoning here is all about other convenience stores in the town centre. I don't know Verwood town centre, so I find it difficult to assess that, but I would like to tie down what it is this shop is supposed to be selling.
Naomi, do you want to respond to that, please?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Heatley. Just in terms of that, so Lidl do sell convenience and comparison goods. So the condition is allowing them to do that within the area that is proposed, which I need to change to 1,170 square meters, not 1,172. What we're not allowing them to provide, which is part 2 of the condition, is the fresh meat counter, fresh fish, delicatessen food, hot food, except for baked goods and post office services. If you can just bear with me, I just want to get my slides back. Apologies. So in terms of the assessment that was provided on the vitality and viability of the town centre, it was considered only, or sorry, there's only 5% of the town centre comprises convenience goods retailing. So the majority of the town centre, which 51%, is service facilities, and the remaining 44% is comparison goods retailing. So the retail consultants who assessed this made the conclusion that that a significant part of the town centre is unlikely to be affected by the proposed development on the like-for-like basis. Does that answer your question, or do you have? Well,
I mean, there's a major point and a minor point. It does seem to me that if this shop is selling substantial numbers of comparison goods, and the town centre is 40-odd%, I think was the figure you used, comparison goods shops, there is a degree of competition and so on, which doesn't seem to be mentioned in the consultant's report. My more minor point is that your beginning paragraph says used as a discount food retailer only, which to me means a food shop, but goes on to talk about and comparison goods, and it seems to me just simply that there's a simple drafting contradiction between those two bits of the condition.
Yes, I can see. I think in terms of the business model that Lidl operates, it is a convenience food retailer with ad hoc comparison goods. So Phil, could I ask for advice on the wording of the condition? Phil Crowther.
Phil, can you respond to that, please?
Sorry, Chairman, I was just, as Naomi, it took me a minute to turn the microphone and camera on. I understand the point that Councillor Heatley's making. My understanding is that discount food retailer is a term that's commonly understood in retail planning. If that is a concern to members, then albeit it might be difficult to do so now, the condition could be amended to provide a maximum percentage for the comparison goods if that's felt appropriate, given that my understanding is it's the ad hoc and more minor element of the offer in the shop, but that's one option that's open to members.
Thank you. Brian, do you wish to come back on anything that Phil has said?
I mean, look, if if discount food retailer in common planning speak includes a certain amount of ad hoc, so be it. But I just found it rather confusing, and I'm not seeking that there should be some limit on the ad hoc element. I have no idea how big it should be or how you would define it. But I'm more concerned with the drafting of the condition in a way.
Chairman, if it helps, sorry to come back in. The other point is that there are some ancillary uses which are acceptable in terms of the description allowed. So it's a food effectively it would be considered a food retailer with ancillary comparison goods.
Right.
I think that's the key to it. It's the fact that the comparison goods are ancillary. They're not the main part of the business. So if you're happy with that, I'll move on to the next speaker.
My conclusion from this is that the strength of the conclusion that this will not affect the town centre is perhaps not quite as strong as the paper is suggesting. At least that's my conclusion.
Okay, I think your fears will not be realised knowing the full context of what is available in the town centre.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the next speaker, please, and that's David Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As usual, I should probably stick my neck out. First of all, I'd like to thank the officer for her very comprehensive report. I mean, I have visited the site, so I know exactly what is proposed. I've read all the documents, and I've read all the survey comments, and I do note the overwhelming support for this Lidl in Burwood. And the advantages that it could bring in the sense of employment facilities. This is especially important, I think, at this time, and the other advantages that it might bring. I also note that the reasons for refusal before, which included the oak tree, the size of the buildings, the noise level, have now been addressed or are being addressed by the conditions that are laid down, which we've all seen and read. And I also note that Burwood Town Council is also in approval of this. So I think, to me, bearing all this in mind, that I do note the concerns of the residents, and I hope that these conditions will somewhat alleviate their fears. But I am minded, Madam Chairman, to propose acceptance of the officer's recommendation that we grant permission to build Lidls. That might be a little previous, but I just thought that I would lay that on the table. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. At some point we did need to have a proposal of some sort. Robin Cook, you're next to speak. Do you wish to second the proposal?
If I can just hold that in abeyance, because I've got a number of points here, Chairman. But
yeah, that's fine.
If I may. Yes, I think when I first looked at this, I thought even with the revised plan, it's been shoehorned in very, very well, I must say. I'm reasonably familiar with the site, and certainly what's proposed there is going to look a darn sight better, I think, than what is already on show there. Anyway, regarding what's on offer and the impact on Burwood Town Centre, Verwood, I think in the 90s particularly, was probably the biggest growth area in the UK. I think I'm right in saying it was the largest growth area in the United Kingdom.
I remember
Sadly,
saying
the
something
retail,
along those lines.
Yeah, sadly, and I'm sure the Verwood members won't mind me saying this, the retail offering in Verwood has not kept up with that standard of growth, not just for the town, but for the outlying villages around there. So I'm going to turn that on its head, the comments about the other offerings. It's going to add to the offer that's already available in the town centre. So I think that probably is a bonus. I'd like to think it would mean less car-based journeys, because people have got to travel out at the moment, as we've heard, to Ringwood and Ferndown and so on. Hopefully they'll stay more local, therefore use the car less, shorter distances. So that's good from our climate emergency and ecological standpoint. It will benefit the outlying villages. I mean, they need to travel generally to get their products, so that will help a lot of those in that area. My other concerns I raised, I've heard raised by others, car parking overspill. Did I hear earlier on that there's likely they will be parking on Ringwood Road? Perhaps I could just have a bit of clarification on that. And if this is approved, I would like, if possible, a condition that they barrier the car park. And my reasoning for that is, I'll bring it up for you in a moment, that it will help to avoid misuse by unconnected parties outside of operating hours, and it'll prevent any additional noise pollution on the neighbouring properties. So I think that would be quite an important feature to incorporate into that parking, into the car parking. But the question is about the additional car parking, because I sympathise with what Councillor Gorringe said about perhaps wanting double yellow lines or some sort of restriction, because where is the car parking overspill likely to occur? If I can get a satisfactory answer to those, I may be minded to second the proposal.
Thank you very much. If I can have a response from officers on both the barrier and the parking on Ringwood Road, please.
Members,
Chair, would you like
Kim, oh sorry, Kim Cohen.
Kim first, please.
You want me to come in quickly? If I may, members, the committee may recall recently granting an Aldi supermarket in Upton, and officers imposed a condition there which required a barrier to be installed at the site entrance and closed when the store was closed to stop this very same thing happening. I don't have the words to hand, but I can find them and read them out in a second if you take the other questions and answers to the questions first.
Thank you. In that case, I'll go to Steve Savage for the highways comment, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. In response to Councillor Cook's query, as Naomi mentioned earlier, the Highway Authority initially had some concerns with regard to the level of car parking provided, and that it didn't quite accord with our guidance. Lidl's then provided a much more comprehensive and fuller analysis of car parking, and we've always accepted operational car parking needs for retail food stores. And they provided a comparative analysis with other stores. I think the closest was the Christchurch Lidl store, to give an indication of particularly the Saturday peak, which is the busiest period, as we're all aware. And it was determined that I think Naomi showed you on that particular slide there, that in the Saturday peak, a maximum they've identified would be 71 spaces, and there are actually 79 available for members of the public to park within the site curtilage. So we're satisfied as a highway authority that there shouldn't be any overspill car parking. I can only reiterate that people should not be parking on Ringwood Road and cause an obstruction to other accesses or to the free flow of traffic. And knowing that area very well for many years, I don't think I'd want to habitually park on Ringwood Road myself. I don't think it'd be the safest place to park. But we are confident, Councillor, that the allocated amount of car parking within the site is more than adequate to cater for the proposed development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kim,
yes,
you have the wording now.
I do, and I've I'll read it out for members' benefit. The condition that was imposed at the supermarket recently granted reads: details of a vehicle barrier to be installed at the vehicular entrance must be submitted to the local planning authority prior to the store opening to the public. The barrier must be installed before the store is open to the public and permanently retained in accordance with the details. The barrier must be closed when the store is not open to members of the public, except to allow staff entry 1 hour prior to the store opening and 1 hour after the store closes. And the reasons for that condition was in the interest of security and antisocial behaviour. And that's the condition that was imposed in its entirety for members' consideration.
Thank you very much for that wording and for the fact that you've actually put it in the chat for us to see in detail, as it's not in the report. Robin, I'm going to come back to you. Are you happy with the responses that you've received to the comments you've made?
Well, to Kim, thank you very much for bringing that one up, because I remember that other application very, very well, and I think you've summed it up well, and I think hopefully we can apply that in this case, so that's good. Regarding the parking, I'm not going to make a great issue of it, but I would urge Verwood Town Council to follow this up very closely, and if needs be, puts a strong pressure on to get no waiting on parts of Ringwood Road going forward. But otherwise, I'd be happy to second this, because I do think it's going to benefit a much wider section of the community, and for the reasons I've given earlier. So thank you very much.
Lovely, that's fine. I'm sure, as you were aware, Verwood will keep a very close eye on that. And if it is a problem, they will no doubt make the Town Council very aware and solicit their support for waiting restrictions, as they do elsewhere in the town. And also park along that stretch, because it is in the lead up to the traffic lights. I'm going to go back to David Morgan as proposer. Robin Cook, in seconding it, has suggested an additional condition. Are you happy to accept that condition?
Very happy, Madam Chairman.
Okay, so we have a proposal to, sorry, my computer is giving me lots of utility warnings coming up, interrupting my flow. So we have a proposal on the table for grant with an additional condition about barriers. Very quickly, I'm going to go back to Naomi. I'm aware there are other speakers. Naomi, would this extra condition be something that would be acceptable to the applicant?
I believe so, yes.
Lovely. Okay. I will then continue with my list of speakers. Shane, you're the next one to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And now, as I am speaking to the proposal that's on the table, what I noted from the report was that the area of Ringwood Road is a mixed development, residential and commercial, and therefore I'm satisfied that the development does not bring significant or demonstrable harm to the area. Indeed, it may be seen from an aesthetic point of view to some that it actually improves the area from what already exists on the site. The applicant, I'm pleased to see, has been, or would appear to have been, in direct dialogue with the officers to address those planning concerns associated with the site and bring forward now an acceptable development for the brownfield site. And as per page 77, 78 in the report, local representations would appear to be overwhelming in support for the proposed development, which I now am pleased, like others, to see that that includes the parish, the local town and parish council. In addition to the retail outlet, would help to mitigate against any harmful CO2 emissions and would be in line with Dorset Council's commitment to recognise a climate emergency. And I'd be pleased to say that it's not. There's quite a
Shane, you've lost your sound.
Sorry, Madam Chairman, as you know, I've got IT problems. I'm not sure where I lost that.
It appeared to be muted, but you're back.
Yeah. So as I said, the local representations would appear to be overwhelming support of the proposed development, which I'm pleased to see that the town and parish council is now in support of it as well. The additional retail outlet would help to mitigate against the harmful CO2 emissions and would be in line with Dorset Council's commitment to recognise the climate emergency, which is obviously beneficial to the climate in terms of residents do at times have to travel further distances to do their retail shopping, so this would help mitigate against that. It would, I believe, bring benefit to a far wider community on that subject in terms of the residential population, rather than just those residents that are residing in Verwood, so that would be hugely beneficial as well. And in terms of the no objections, I think it is it's good to see that the Highways Authority, Verwood Parish Town Council, the Tree Officer, the Legal Flood Authority, and Dorset Council Public Health, Dorset Council Conservation Officers are all now in support of this scheme that's been put before us. On page 92, from 8.05 to 8.06, policy KS6 of the core strategy document identifies Verwood as a top-tier town centre where enhancements to accessibility and retail provision will be sought over the planned period. And that's exactly, I think, what this brings forward. The core strategy document stated that the council has a vision for Verwood Town Centre and as a key town centre for the East Dorset district area. So in terms of the principle of development, from 8.03 on page 92, in the officer's report through to 8.22 on page 95, the officer evidence support for development, I think, is overwhelming. And I can see no material planning considerations as to why we should reject this. So I note on page 98 the construction and materials to be used on typical of this type of commercial building. And the roof heights, I was pleased to see, are in keeping more or less with the surrounding area. The developer has and the planners together have obviously taken the view that they would try and mitigate against those roof heights impacting on the area, and I think they've achieved that. So I'm satisfied with the officer's report that any impact on the local amenity and residential area has been addressed and the amendments to the plan have been submitted. So as has already been proposed and seconded, Madam Chairman, I am going to vote in favour of this planning application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Before I just make a couple of comments, Phil Crowther has come back to me. You will notice in condition 3, it mentions that the floor area is 1172 square metres, and I'll also draw your attention to the fact that the case officer amended that and said that it is a typing error and it should be 1170 metres squared. So when you are voting on this application, you will be voting on the smaller floor area of 1170 square meters. Okay, I have no more speakers wishing to speak. The only comment I will make as a local member is that I've never had any issue with the principle, but however my concern has always been the amenity of the residents that surround the application site, particularly in Crescent Road. But I do think the officers have demonstrated that enough amelioration has been put in place. So we have a proposal to grant that has been duly seconded with an extra condition, which members you have seen in the chat bar, for a vehicular barrier to be installed to be used after 1 hour of closure and 1 hour prior to opening. So we have a duly proposed and seconded proposal to grant. So I will now move to the vote, and again I will do it through roll call as we have done earlier. So first on my list is Shane Bartlett.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I've listened to the debate and read the report and fully understand the proposal in front of us, and I vote for.
Okay, Alex Brenton.
Thank you, Chair. I have listened to this long debate and all the various conditions, and I am voting for.
Okay. Robin Cook.
Yes, Madam Chairman, I've listened to the full presentation and the following debate, and I'm happy to support.
Okay. Mike Dyer.
Listened fully throughout, Chairman, and vote to approve.
Thank you. Barry Gorringe.
I've listened to the good presentation that was done by Naomi. I've taken part in the debate and I fully support.
Thank you. Brian Heatley.
Thank you, Chairman. I've listened to the discussion and on balance, I support this application.
Thank you. David Morgan. David, even though you are a proposer, I do need to know whether you are in support of the application, please.
Sorry, Madam Chairman, it sort of muted itself. Obviously anticipated a long speech. I have listened to the debate and I vote for the application.
Thank you very much. Judy Robinson, have you been able to join the meeting?
I have, on and off, Chairman. IT have just sorted everything out for me. I've been listening as we've gone along and I support the application.
Thank you very much and welcome to the committee.
Thank you.
David Took.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Excellent report by the officers. I have listened to everything. I've read all the papers and I support the application.
Thank you. And we have apologies from Bill Trite and John Worth. I will get confirmation from David Northover, but to me that sounds unanimous. David.
Indeed, that is the case, Chairman. It is unanimous voting for the application.
Thank you very much. So therefore, the application is granted with the extra condition for a security barrier at night. So thank you all very much for that, members. Hour and a half is good going. We have two more agenda items. Item 8 is the planning appeal summary. Pete Waters, you're going to take us through this one, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Good afternoon, members. I've been asked to brief you on an appeal decision that we've received in relation to the site at the former primary school in West Lulworth. Just to briefly refresh everyone's memory, the original application was to erect 6 new dwellings and convert the former school buildings into a further 3 dwellings, so a total of 9 dwellings. One of the conditions that was attached to that planning permission was condition 13, which related to the imposition of the second homes condition, that is to say that none of the new dwellings could be occupied as anything other than a person's sole or principal residence, and that was taken from policy H14 of the emerging Purbeck local plan. The applicant has appealed that decision. Sorry, I beg your pardon. The applicants then applied to remove that condition, and that application was considered at the Planning Committee on the 4th of December 2019. The Planning Committee overturned the officer recommendation to allow the removal of the condition, and the applicant has appealed this decision. The inspector has allowed the appeal, thereby removing condition 13 from the planning permission. The inspector decided that policy H14 of the emerging Purbeck local plan cannot be given weight in the decision-making process at the moment. As members are aware, the plan is going through the examination process. The local plan inspector has provided the initial feedback advising that certain policies require modifications to be made. Policy H14 is one of the policies in which modifications will be required. Now, the modifications proposed relate to whether replacement dwellings would be the subject of this policy, so don't directly affect the application that members considered back last December. However, the appeal inspector has concluded that although that may be the case, because modifications are required on that policy, that it should not be given significant weight at this time. The appeal inspector in the appeal decision did acknowledge that the situation is progressing and may well change. However, they considered that at present policy H14 carries sufficient weight to allow the retention of that condition, and therefore they allowed the appeal, and in addition a full award of costs has been awarded against the council. Thank you.
Members, if I can just come in with a very short point, and that is that clearly with regard to the local plan as a whole, we will look at each condition in turn, and it would depend on the wording of that condition and the modifications required to that condition as to how much weight we would give it. The local plan is a moving feast. As it advances towards adoption, clearly we can give more weight to each of the policies in the local plan, and we will seek to update you as that local plan progresses, and you'll be guided by the officer reports, where we will work with the policy team to give members an update as to what weighting we can give each of the policies as that local plan advances towards adoption. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kim. Although I understand where the inspector's coming from, I think it's very sad that they decided to award costs against the council as well. And I do understand where the Purbeck members come from on this policy and how important it is to them. So I've not got anyone wishing to speak on this one, so thank you, Pete, and Kim, for updating us on where we are with that. As you say, we just have to wait and see as it goes forward, and the sooner we can get the Purbeck local plan adopted into Dorset Council, the better it will be for all of us. So our last item on the agenda is item 9, urgent items, and you'll all be very pleased to know that we don't have any today. So at 3:36, I will be closing the meeting, and thank you all very much for your participation and forbearance today. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.